Well, should you take Social Security early and invest it? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, we're not taking calls today, and if you have a question for me, I want to invite you to go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com, and send it in at the Ask Bob section. Now, I can only imagine that you're probably thinking, well, if I've sent emails, not to Prudent Money, but I've sent emails to other radio shows and they've kind of gone into or other advisors, and they've kind of gone into a dark hole that, they don't have time to answer my questions. My questions aren't big, important questions. Every question's important, number one. Number two, you don't go in a big black hole. You end up getting answers to your questions. And if you've ever sent a question in and you did not get an answer, please call the station, get the phone number of how you can reach us, or go to prudentmoney.com and get the phone number, how to reach us, and say, hey, I asked this question, and I will personally take the opportunity to talk to you over the phone to get you an answer. Very, very serious about this, especially we're in the environment where it's just tough to get advice. And that's a whole nother story. But advisors are increasingly setting the bar higher for who they'll work with, and it's shutting out the average person. And like I said, there's a long story to why that's happening. But we want to make sure and be here for you. You bless me by listening to this program and being a part of Prudent Money and what we're trying to do here, what we feel like God's leading us to do. And I want to be available for you in that process to get your questions answered. And I love to get the questions. And here's the other thing, too, is that seeing what these questions that you send in tell me a lot about kind of what the vibe is, what people are thinking, what people are worried about, which gets me to thinking about good show content. And you can imagine 5 days a week of show content can be challenging. Fortunately, God has blessed me time and time again with leading me to just exactly what I think that He wants me to talk about. So make sure you take advantage of prudentmoney.com. Go to the Ask Bob section, send a question in. No question is too, maybe you think this is kind of a dumb question. And I get that. I had to ask my 19-year-old yesterday a dumb question at the dinner table. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm just going to do it. There's no ego here. I guess I'm just going to ask this dumb question. And, of course, he gave me that look like that was a dumb question. But anyway, if you got a teenager, you know how it is. So anyway, no dumb questions and no small questions, just whatever is important to you. I want to be able to help out if I can. prudentmoney.com. Yesterday we talked a little bit, in fact, the entire program on Social Security, when to take it, and what the problems with Social Security are. Kind of covered the basics. This question, though, is one that needs some time taken to make sure that you understand the pros and cons of it, because I think it's a particularly dangerous question. Dear Bob, I had an advisor recommend that we take Social Security early and then reinvest it aggressively, giving us a better future advantage. What do you think about that? I think it's, as opposed to saying it's good or bad, I want to answer it from the standpoint of it's got a high probability of working out, or it's got a high probability of becoming a major problem and not working out. Number one, I don't like the idea of anybody at any age saying that going starting an investment plan or whatever they're doing from the standpoint of I'm going to roll the dice, put money into the stock market and make a lot of money aggressively as fast as I can, because that's just asking for problems. Maybe it'll work out. I think it's a low probability that it will with that kind of motivation that you're going to go and you're going to invest money that way. So just bear that in mind for the first part of the answer, is that there is, we're looking at it from a probability standpoint, and aggressively investing money has a very low probability of working out perfectly. It's really the closest thing to a speculative bet. So I'm not a real big fan of foundational parts of your financial plan and mixing those with aggressive strategies. That's not to say that if somebody is aggressive that may not be a bad strategy for them. But I personally look at things like, you get the same advice with buying and owning a house. You still have a mortgage. You get the lump sum. Say that you owe $200,000 on the house. You get $100,000 from an inheritance or something, and some advisor says, well, I would invest that and grow that money up until the point that you can take it where the balance of the mortgage equals the balance of the investment account. You can take it and you can pay off. I remember being at the age of a lot of financial advisors that are practicing, and was young, and that was always taught to me back in the early 90s, is that if you get a lump sum, you don't want to just pay off debt. And that advice always, pay off mortgage debt, you want to take it and invest it. That advice to me was always, boy, there's got to be another side of the story to that, because the things that could go wrong, and if they went wrong, you'd be in a bad situation. So, I don't blame the advisor for looking at it from that standpoint or giving that advice. I think that I blame the industry from being so one-sided in their education of advisors and giving them the both sides of the story. And we always talk about that pop culture finance is really bad about saying this is the way to go, this is what you do, and then from a financial services standpoint, the industry or a company, an investment company, they're probably looking at their advisor going, wouldn't you want to invest that money and for this to work out, and you get a commission plus you're investing it, and it's got too much conflict of interest to it that you gotta think about. So foundational types of situations where you have for most, if Social Security plays a part, a strong, once it gets fixed, we talked about that yesterday, cash flow that comes in. I personally wouldn't take the money and invest it aggressively, especially aggressively, in the hopes of having more money than I would have had I waited to take. I mean, it's an interesting equation on whether you wait to take the money or you invest it and take it early and take less of it. But at the same time, I don't like to take that kind of risk, because the payoff is not high enough of a probability that it will work out. It's more a higher probability that it could explode. And the other thing that you got to realize is that, once again, and we talked about this yesterday, is that each year that you wait to take your Social Security benefit, it goes up 8%. So the fact that it grows by 8% is another issue that sides with not being speculative. And the other thing too is you got to bet on that you're investing at the right time of the right part of the cycle. Remember, we talk about the cycle. And so with Social Security benefits and specifically mortgage debt, I say if you get a lump sum, you pay it off, because the whole goal with mortgage debt is to get it paid off completely by the time you're retiring. And then the whole idea with Social Security is to take it at the most opportune time that your plan says to take it, and make sure that, and here's the other thing too, is that if you invest that money, especially in aggressive, speculative type investments, you're going to ride that roller coaster of ups and downs, because you're, in a sense, putting it all on the line. So once again, I mean, it's one of those things where you could start at 62, start investing the money, everything blows up at 65 or 66. You still have the cash flow coming in, but you just missed out on the benefit of having that investment, because it just got cut in half or 2/3. So keep the speculation. I'm not discouraging speculative investing by any stretch, but just keep that in other parts of your plan. Let's say it that way, and so that you don't take unnecessary risks. You want to take good stewardship risks. And personally, I can't make that conclusion in my mind that is good stewardship risk. Once again, you got to do what you feel is the best for your situation, but that's kind of where I stand on it. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Hey, listen, we're up against a break. Stick around, and I will be right back.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
There is great comfort found in God's providence, and this week on Truth for Life, we'll discover why God's purposes can't be thwarted. Find out how this assurance helps you live in an unbelieving world without compromising your convictions. Join Alistair Begg this week on Truth for Life.
Weekdays at 5:30 a.m. here on 91.3 KDKR.
Hi, I'm Jan Markell, host of Understanding the Times. We're very excited to be a part of Bible School Radio. I hope you will join me Saturday, 10 a.m. for cutting-edge guests and the latest information to help you discern the truth, even the inconvenient truth. We'll help you understand our times and contend for the faith. That's Understanding the Times, Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on Bible School Radio, or anytime at olivetreeviews.org.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. We're not taking live questions, and if you do have a question, please go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. Check out all the resources there. If you miss a program, you can go to a podcast, but if you want to ask a question, I want to encourage you to do so. We've already talked about that in the first part of the program, that this is a benefit that is there for you. And try me out, because I do answer those questions. I take it very seriously. It's the ministry aspect of what I do on the radio. And I want to make sure that you are getting advice, because it's just harder to get today. And if I can help out, I certainly want to do so. Very, very committed to that. So, in fact, I got an email, great email, last night from a listener that I know has listened for a long time, because this isn't the first email that I believe I've gotten emails years ago from him. And he said, "Hey, Bob, I want to get all that information on the Social Security scams we were talking about." And we talked about this yesterday, how careful you got to be. The senior citizen community's got to be vigilant and make sure that they don't get scammed or fall into any kind of a fraud situation. And so it talked about this the Social Security piece that I was talking about gave the things to look out for. He said, hey, can you get all that to me? And he goes, I want to put it in a couple of churches to where people can take it as a handout and maybe it'll make a difference. I love that. That is being proactive in helping to spread the word. Because once again, if it weren't for the fact that it is easy for these criminals to get away with it, they wouldn't be doing it. And it's rampant. That is the problem. So just go to prudentmoney.com, send a question in, I'll get you taken care of. And if you've not signed up for the email letter list, please do. That way you can be connected to whatever we're doing here. Listen, at the end of the day, if we form a community that's committed to learning about stewardship, embracing stewardship, and living stewardship, then we have accomplished something pretty cool. So I want to encourage you to be a part of that community by doing so. And I'm sending out blogs. We're getting close to getting them every day. And it's just, things to think about, things that tips, information that I think is important for you to know. Try to stay away from the long blogs. I know you don't have that much time, but just a little bit along the way every day to kind of consider and think about. Maybe it will be helpful. And if it is, then we definitely want to keep doing it. So all that is at prudentmoney.com. I think I could have said all of that a lot quicker, but there was a lot to say. Okay. One of the problems that unfortunately we are heading into is layoffs. And that goes along with, well, it depends on who you believe, what kind of condition our economy is in. But in fact, I'll go back to what I said last week, is that when the government comes out and gives and reports the unemployment numbers and says that, we created 517,000 jobs in this last month. And then all the while throughout this time that we're creating 517,000 jobs, company after company after company is announcing layoffs. So what is it? I don't think you can have both. I mean, it's a very odd situation. Something doesn't make sense. But the bottom line is, I think for everybody, you don't want to get caught off guard. And I'm not saying we're going to have massive layoffs or anything like that. I'm just talking about from a stewardship standpoint, you want to be protected and make sure that you've got your ducks in a row, that you've got a plan you can initiate, and really, and hopefully we'll have some time to talk about this here in a little bit. You dismantle obstacles by taking action. It's something I heard today on a podcast, that in order to remove obstacles in your way, you take action. Same thing here. The action I'm asking you to take is to make sure you have a game plan put together and that you can put into action if you do get laid off. Because let's face it, if something does happen, time is of the is critical to get going and find that new door that God's going to open. And before we go through some of this, I want to say this: God did allow for a door to close, and God will allow for a door to be open. You've got to be able to look at the problem that we're all going to perceive as a problem and look for the bright spot, the positive of that problem, because there is one. And the one that I would look for, if that were me and I was in that situation, is, okay, God, you've closed one door. I can't imagine the door you're going to open. But it's not easy to get into that mode. It's easier to say, oh, what am I going to do? Well, the worry about money, and money that's a big one. But I think that's why there's more written about money in the Bible, according to Crown Financial, than any other topic. And I think it's because of the high emotional charge that goes along with the worry of money. But while we are focusing on that, that's all we can see, and you miss opportunities all around you. I truly believe in this. It's so very important to focus on, okay, God, every single day I'm going to get out, going to do my best. I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to do my part to lead to make the steps towards finding the next door of opportunity that you have in store for me. That is a totally different mindset and frame of mind than, oh, I've lost my job. What am I going to do? Are we going to lose our house? And it's two different mindsets, and it's your choice. So if you were to get laid off, what would be the game plan? The first step that I would have, and this is something that you can get done today. You don't have to wait for something like that to happen, because I think it's good stewardship, is that get your investments and cash organized. So determine how much money that you have in cash that's in a place that's accessible. And if you're not cash ready to where you think you should be, then make sure that you start making it a priority to add to that cash to get your cash levels to the point to where if something happened, you feel comfortable having the amount of cash that you have. Get your investments organized. What I mean by that is that, and this is just my bias, being an advisor, I just think it makes sense to get everything combined and consolidated into one place with one advisor, to where that advisor can navigate for you through everything that's in this temporary spot that you're in, until you get another job, another door open that God provides for you. So it's good to get investments organized, and this, like I said, this is something you can do today. In fact, I think the advantage of it far out goes beyond a potential layoff or anything like that. I mean, you've got to get organized and make sure that everything is oriented towards the same set of goals, risk goals and otherwise. So get those investments consolidated and into one strategy. The second thing that you want to make sure and do is understand that when you if you have been laid off and you're in a situation where you're just now getting investments kind of put into one strategy, you got to continually think about liquidity and making sure that money is liquid. It may stay invested, but if you can get to it, obviously not in an ideal situation if it's an old 401k or an IRA, but if you have to get to it, you know that you can. The reason I say that is because an advisor may say, well, I think we should change up the investments and we should introduce new investments. Well, new investments may restrict liquidity. It may be that if you sell a new investment that you have a surrender charge or something like that. You don't want to do that until you get back on your feet. You want to keep everything as liquid as possible. In fact, what I would do, I would look at a client's situation and say, where can we create liquidity versus restrict liquidity? It's a very important, I think, a very important part of this second step. The third step is you want to figure out a plan B spending account. And what I mean by that is you have plan A where you got a job, everything's going great, you got income coming in, you're paying your bills, you're tithing, you're doing everything, saving, you're doing everything that you want to do, paying off debt. Now you're down to plan B. That plan B spending plan will look totally different than your plan A spending plan. So make sure that you've cut the things out that you can cut out, and you're going on minimal, and you're allowing for that unemployment benefits to go further. You're allowing for cash to go further, and that kind of thing. And this is something you want to share with your family, that you're going to have to kind of put some things on halt for a while until you get back into this situation where you find that God has opened up another door and you go through it. figure out your shelf life. This one's very, very important, and you want to make sure you know how long that you have before maybe you need to get another lower paying job, but you need income coming in. So just make sure that you know, hey, I've got 6 months here to make all this work, and that you are aware that if 6 months comes and goes, you may have a problem. So you always want to know, what's my shelf life? So take these steps, consider them, and especially as we kind of get into a situation where things are not as cut and dry, and there's maybe a lot of uncertainty, at least you have a game plan that you can jump right into. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.